Hey, what's up, America? My name's Will Bailey. I'm the author of Generation Superstar. Pick up a copy at www.williejbailey.com or visit amazon.com/Generation Superstar. It's better than watching a movie, baby. I was inspired to write Generation Superstar because I noticed a trend in sports, man. A lot of your top-notch athletes who had the natural raw talent, who didn't have to work as hard to be amongst the elite in the nation, they were getting put off the teams, man. Some of them had been fortunate enough to make it to the collegiate level, and they would be put off at the collegiate level. And so as I traveled around the United States of America, man, this was a trend, man. No matter who I talked to in what city and state, man, they had a story about some individual who was an outstanding player that they felt like would have played in the NBA or the NFL or the MLB one day, but they always got put off the team because of some action or some type of criminal involvement that pretty much ended their athletic dreams. So I took all this, man, and that's pretty much what inspired me to write Generation Superstar. Well, the title Generation Superstar, man, once I finished writing the novella, I had several titles in mind, but it was one title that stuck out, and that was Generation Superstar. Because based on definition, a generation superstar is an individual in every generation who's born with the natural talent, raw talent, I mean, who people say would have been the next great player of all times, but no one will ever know because he or she will be put off the team because of some type of criminal activity, more than likely, and they will only be remembered as a generation superstar, and no one will ever know where they could have ended up. So, I mean, there'll always be a generation superstar. That's pretty much where I got the title Generation Superstar, man. I'm trying to get Generation Superstar in the dictionary. Yeah, but I feel like it could be a term that will describe players that did make it or players who will not make it because of a certain lifestyle or people who get involved in certain things, man. So I feel like it's something that a coach can tell his player, hey, number 23, number 24, hey, if you keep up with your behavior, you're going to end up being a generation superstar. And I feel like that player will automatically know what a generation superstar is. And I feel like that might cease any further criminal activity or anything that could prevent him or her from getting to the next level. So that's pretty much why I came up with Generation Superstar. Generation Superstar is an outstanding novella, man. My main character's name is Donovan Kilo Davis, a guy who lives in the projects with an auntie named Sheila. Aunt Sheila was born and raised in the projects, man, and she grew up real fast, man. She learned a lot, man. After dating a dope boy, she managed to find God some way somehow, and turn her life around. She was able to get her GED. So even though they all live in the projects, Aunt Sheila tries to have a positive outlook on life, man. She has a decent job where she's a faithful worker. She works 40 hours a week, but the job only pays minimum wages, right? So my main character, Donovan Kilo Davis. Let me bring you inside of the character, man. Donovan Davis is LeBron James, man. In and out, man. He's a great player in high school who actually has the potential to play at the professional level. He does. But Kilo's lifestyle prevents college recruiters and NBA scouts from from even taking him serious. I mean, when I say this boy is a gangster, this boy is a gangster. He's a gangster to the fifth degree. Um, he's got tattoos on his face. He has a teardrop. He has a few other tattoos over his eyebrows. So believe it or not, Kilo's he's a smart student. He's not dumb by far. Um, you know, he'll try to do his work as long as he can play basketball. You know, a lot of the coaches try to be some type of positive father figure in Kilo's life because they're aware of his situation. Uh, you know, Kilo hustles around the clock. He hangs with a lot of guys who are ex-convicts, a lot of guys who dropped out of school, and he hangs with a lot of dope boys. Yeah, this is his circle, man. A lot of guys that gang bang. So sometimes he skips school, and sometimes he'll go, especially if it's a basketball game going on. But you know, Kilo's behavior is not all his fault because a lot of times too, you know, people in the school will look out for Kilo, man. Sometimes they don't count the absences and the tardies because they know that Kilo is a asset to the basketball team winning the championship. So it's not just Kilo. It's some of it's the teachers, it's the administrative staff, and some of the coaches as well. Because you know, and the classes that he does fail, I mean, they pencil whip it and give him a passing grade just so he can play. Because, like I said, you can't deny this boy, man. So Kilo, he's an outstanding player, man. Outstanding individual, like I said at first. And what he does, man, is the story is about Kilo who he robs a store. And the night he robs his store, man, his basketball coach is one of the hostages. His basketball coach is gonna be, let me bring you a character, man, so you can come with me. His basketball coach is gonna be somebody like what's the guy's name? Irving Rames. I think that's the guy that played in Baby Boy, the bald-headed guy. His basketball coach is going to be somebody like that, man. You know, with a little bit of street knowledge and everything. So when Kilo robs this store, he's talking to the hostages because actually he's afraid. And so one of the hostages move, and Kilo, you know, he's like, man, didn't I say no one move? So the hostage turns his head and he looks at Kilo. I mean, and as he's glowering at Kilo recognizes that, wow, this is my coach. And the coach, he's like, wow, that's Donovan. So they just stare at each other. And so, you know, Kilo's afraid, man. He's panicking. So he yells to the other guys, let's get out of here. So once they leave, the coach, he's forced to make a decision. He's forced to make a decision and tell the police because he knows what just happened. Or two, he can make a decision to give Kilo a pass because of his life, you know, the cards he was dealt, and maybe he doesn't know any better, you know. Three, he can use this as a way to blackmail Kilo into going to school, going to college. And so that's what he does, man. He blackmails Kilo into going to college, and once he confronts Kilo denies any involvement with a robbery, and actually they end up getting into a physical altercation, man, where the coach he dominates Kilo and kind of punches him a little bit, you know. Kilo goes home and he thinks about coming back to the school and shooting the coach, but he doesn't because. You know, it just touched him deep on the inside. I mean, he listened to the speech that Coach Bell gave him about, you know, his future and, you know, he'll end up in prison or dead like his other cousin. So, you know, he knows that Kilo is going through a lot. And Kilo, you know, he's like, wow, he had a good point. Where will I end up? So he uses this to blackmail Kilo into going to college. And you know, Kilo goes to college and he doesn't get to play at a Division I school like he deserved. He really deserved to play at a Division I school, but he does get to play at a D3 school, small school, where he dominates. Man, he actually takes the He takes the school to another level. But unfortunately, he comes back home, like a lot of athletes do, and they get involved in BS with some of their homeboys who never left the projects or the hood or the community or whatever you want to call it. And he gets threw off the team. So he quits school and everything, and the coach goes to talk with him, and he tells him, you might not get to the NBA, which is really the only reason Kilo ever went to college anyway, because he felt like he would get to the NBA. So he gets back into school, and he continues his education. He gets a degree in physical education, and the coach helps him get a job, and he goes back to the projects one night and visits some of the homeboys who never got to leave. And what happens? They end up getting into it with a guy from high school, man. And what the guys do is they do a drive-by. Kilo hides behind a garbage container, and so he doesn't get shot. But the guys who did the drive-by actually got hit by a bullet, so they crash into a light pole. So Kilo notices all of his friends. It was 4 of them. They're dead, and one of the friends is actually kind of fidgeting around on the ground. He's like, wow, because he thought Kilo changed. He was calling Kilo a square and a sellout and a punk and all the above. But, before he died, he was like, wow, man, you're all right. I'm the one that changed. And so Kilo, he's lost in reverie for a second, man. And he gets the gun from his friend, right? And he walks over to the car. And when he gets there, the 2 guys that did the drive-by are actually still alive. They're just kind of banged up and everything. So Kilo, he thinks about it. His life just flashes by real fast. He thinks about him and his homeboys growing up since they were rugrats in diapers, you know what I mean? And, he thinks about his coaching career. And so Kilo actually kills these 2 individuals. And then he flees the scene. And, and it's all running through his mind so fast. He has a new truck, man, and, he's thinking, wow, I'm going to lose everything I have. I'm going to end up going to prison. And he wants to call the police, but he's panicking. He's like, wow, I can't call the police. So he's about to dial 911 on his cell phone, but he stops and he doesn't call. So he goes to a payphone and he calls 911 and he reports the accident and the location, and he hangs up the phone before the operator can get any information from him. And so Kilo goes home and he cries. He gets into bed and he's just crying like a baby, man. And he has a cousin that he's still living with. He goes in, he asks him what's wrong, and he can't tell him what just happened. But his cousin looks at his clothes and everything and sees covered in blood, and he notices that he has a pistol laying on the nightstand. And so that morning, when Kilo's Aunt Sheila gets up and she's cooking breakfast, she turns on the TV in the kitchen, and she hears a story about 4 individuals being killed and 2 others and blah blah blah, and they're looking for another suspect. And so Kilo's little cousin walks in the kitchen, and he notices that these are Kilo's friends that are on the news. And so he thinks back about last night, and he realizes that, wow, Kilo had something to do with this, but he doesn't tell his auntie either. So Kilo's auntie rushes to his room, and she knocks on the door and wakes him up so she can tell him the news, right? So Kilo gets up, and he's in his boxers and he has no shirt on, so she can't see the clothes or anything. So when she tells Kilo the news, Kilo falls and melts in her arms, right? And he's crying. So and she's holding him. And so his cousin walks in behind, and he's looking at Kilo now, and Kilo's looking at his cousin with this guilt, right? Because now he knows that his cousin can put 2 and 2 together. And, his cousin's kind of like a square, believe it or not. He's a schoolboy. So once his auntie goes back into the kitchen and make a few phone calls to some people and try to get more information, Kilo's cousin goes into his bedroom, right, and he gets the gun that he took from Kilo last night, and he tells Kilo, it's okay, man. Your secret's safe with me. And I'm going to go get rid of this. He was talking about the gun. So he took the gun and he went and got rid of the gun. And, you know, Kilo ends up being a successful coach. And the only one that knows what happened is him and his cousin, but they never say a word about it. And Kilo goes on to win championships. And, he gets a pretty good job. And he moves his auntie and his two cousins out of the projects into a nicer house on the outskirts of town. And so he ends up having a pretty prosperous life, man. Oh man, what do I want? What do I want the reader to take away from Generation Superstar? I mean, I feel like the reader can take away a lot of messages from Generation Superstar, man. The first thing that I feel like any individual can take away is the definition of a Generation Superstar. I feel like if the world knows what a Generation Superstar is, it can kind of be something that will remind individuals within the athletic world of what can happen once you're involved with the wrong crowd, and how your dreams can all automatically be ended and deferred because of one small thing, man. That's one thing that I think the readers can take away from Generation Superstar. Something else I think you can take away from Generation Superstar, if you read Generation Superstar and you pay close attention, you can kind of understand the culture of people from this world. I mean, like Donovan Kilo Davis, man, outstanding individual, very smart student when he wants to be. Even though he did a little gang banging and hustling and robbing, he was very, very, very educated, and he meant well because. When I say he meant well, even though he stole and he sold drugs and he robbed people, he would always take the money he got from there and give to his auntie or send to his sister who was further down south, or he would help the people in his family. Another thing you can take away from this is Kilo's auntie. She grew up in the projects as well, and she found God and she got a GED. But a lot of times she wouldn't take the money Kilo gave her because she said it was drug money, and she felt like it was poison, right? And so that's something else that you can take from the story, is that not everybody in this world are bad people. Some of these people have morals and values. And back to Kilo, when his cousin was killed in the beginning of the story, there was a part in there where his auntie did not have enough money to bury her son, whose name was Dunn. And so the city was going to bury him, but it was going to be a basic burial. I mean, basically put him in the ground in a pine box. And she didn't want that to happen, and neither did Kilo. So, Kilo and some of the homeboys, they hustled around the clock and made a little bit of money. So, and I think it was like $6,500 that they needed to come up with to give him a basic, decent burial. And, once Kilo and the homeboys got the money, Kilo takes the money to his auntie, right? And so she's crying and she's kind of distraught, from the death of her son. And so, Kilo tells her, he says, "Here, take the money. God understands. He know we poor and ain't got shit." So I think that's a favorite part for me. You know what I mean? Because in Kilo's mind, he justifies and defends his vulnerability by saying God understands why we do what we do, because we don't have another option. Something else the reader can take from Generation Superstar. I feel like the reader can also. I feel like the reader can take a lesson away from Generation Superstar and share with other people. I feel like if you're a teacher and you read Generation Superstar, it might give you an insight on one of your bright students who came from a different background than you possibly came from. That's pretty much it, man. In the future, man, I have another novel that I hope will come out by the end of 2014. Man, it's an outstanding book, man. Another hit. I have a cartoon. Well, it's not a cartoon. I have a few characters that I created also. Uh, I'm trying to push them to Disney Studios or Pixar or somebody. I feel like it's a outstanding group of characters I created. So that's the next thing I'm working on this year. I'll be putting my focus on that, man. That's pretty much it, man. Follow me on Facebook. Visit my website at www.williejbailey.com. And I really and truly appreciate all your support. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man.